All right, let's call Jeanne and see what she's up to.
Hello. Is it me you're calling for?
So what's up? What are you up to?
Nothing. Just chilling. Made salmon in a cream sauce today, and it was very good.
Oh, you fancy.
You know, I try. Chef Horadi.
So, with all this time we have at home now, what are you doing for self-care? Like, how are you purposely and intentionally taking care of yourself?
So I started off strong, and then I kind of been struggling, especially last week. I started doing my journal we had talked about, and the part that I'm running to that's difficult for me is on Sundays sitting down and planning out for the week. Because when it comes to Sunday, I just want to, just kind of relax and hang out, because all week long, I've literally been doing something every single day and all day that I feel like the days have been going by so fast. And I look up, it's like 6:30.
Even
like,
in
in
a pandemic, even during quarantine?
I think I texted y'all a few weeks ago in our Savage group chat, and I was like, these days are just going by so fast.
Flying by. Yeah.
I kind of been wanting them to slow down. I just kind of have to get everything together and come up with a system for me. I feel like I've just kind of added. I came up with a schedule last week because I feel like I was trying to add too many things too fast. It's like, okay, we're in a pandemic. Let's see if while we're in this pandemic, I'm gonna get all these things done that I ever wanted to get done.
Interesting.
Right. And it ended up causing issues because I would get overwhelmed, and then I'd be like, forget all this shit. I ain't doing none of this. So I'll find myself slacking. But you know me, when I slack, the only thing that happens is my mind races, and it's hard for me to sleep because I'm thinking about all the things that I didn't do.
It almost sounds like what meant to be self-care turns out to not really be self-care. So to me, self-care is any activity that we deliberately do in order to take care of our mental, emotional, and physical health. Even though it like that sounds simple, it's something that we overlook. And self-care doesn't mean go out and do something or go out and spend money on yourself. Good self-care is like, what can I do right now in this moment to improve my mood, or to reduce anxiety, or to just feel better in my body, or to make complicated things not so complicated mentally.
Right.
So I guess when I think of self-care, I think of what can I do in this very moment to feel better.
So what have you been doing? Because maybe something you've been doing kind of help my ass out, because I've been dropping the ball like it's no one's business. Like, you have no idea.
Self-care, to me, self-care is like, this is like the pleasure moment that I get to have if I'm like bogged down with something. What I've been doing is basically giving myself permission to feel what I feel, and not to, I guess, point fingers at myself, or, wag your finger at yourself and be like, you shouldn't be doing this. You shouldn't be doing that. And just I'm giving myself a lot of space to just let things come and let things go. It's like, I don't get to go out and get my nails done. I don't get to go out and get a massage or do whatever, but I'm doing little things to just it's almost like when you think of taking a deep breath, exhaling, I'm doing those types of things that allow me to exhale because life is crazy right now. So what can I do to emotionally exhale? What can I do to mentally and physically exhale?
You're doing the total opposite of what I'm doing. You're letting go and I'm reining myself in.
Yeah.
Complete opposite.
Mm-hmm. I can literally kick back, put my feet up, and finally just breathe. That tightness in your chest starts to go away when you can finally just exhale. And then I'm doing some things that I did not think I would be doing, which is kind of funny.
Like what? What have you been doing? I want to know.
So I'm a big nostalgic person. Like nostalgia is my thing. And a lot of people say you shouldn't live in the past, but I find the good things about the past to live in. So when I was a kid, I was addicted to The Sims. Computer game. Oh. My mama to begged her to buy this game.
And I would play it.
Classic. Before school, after school, all hours of the night, I would get my little computer privileges taken away. So I went online and I bought The Sims. I bought Sims 4. And my little self-care thing has also been playing The Sims whenever I feel like it because I love it so much. I love it so much. I just play this little game and I get lost in it and I just block the world out for a little while and it brings me like little bits of joy. And so instead of saying, you know, look up at the clock, you playing this game for too long. I don't care. I do what I want. Like this is my self-care. This is me giving myself space to do what I feel like I need to do.
Right.
Now I'm trying to learn some discipline around how many hours should I be playing this game because I'm not really a gamer, but I'm trying to like now incorporate some discipline and some boundaries around how long I can play this game. But I am allowing myself to relax, play some games, chill. If I don't feel like doing anything, I'm not going to do anything. If I feel like doing something, I will do something. And that's just my deliberate way of taking care of myself.
Think what you said about disciplining yourself to give yourself the time. That is what I do to myself all the time. I think it stems from how I was raised. My mom was very strict. And my dad worked a lot. So my mom, she always had her foot on our necks. And you know, and it has seriously carried on into my adulthood. And I notice it from time to time where I am just so hard on myself. And there's one thing that I constantly tell myself. And when I think about the things that my parents used to tell me, it's word for word. And it's crazy how I'm repeating the same language to me. And it's if I'm not doing something that I have put in my planner or something that I said, oh, today I will do this. And if I don't get it done or I'm making excuses not to get it done, or even if it's a legitimate excuse, in my mind, I'm telling myself, you need to stop making excuses and just get it done. And that's something that was big in our family, like excuses. Even if it was a legitimate reason, it was an excuse. And even if I have a legitimate reason now, it's an excuse.
Wow.
So, you know, it just kind of ties hand in hand. I just need to take maybe a page out of yearbooks and just like, it's kind of like I'm waiting to exhale. But you know what? I'm gonna get there one day. I'm slowly practicing. I started meditating last week. My goal was to do it every day. I got it done 5 out of 7 days, so I'm okay with that.
That is an accomplishment. That's an accomplishment.
I was very hard on myself for only getting it done 5 days, and then it finally clicked. It clicked though that okay, this is something you've never done before. You've done it 5 days in a row. So you know, I'm proud of myself. I did like 5 minutes one day. It was 5 minutes to 10 minutes, so it wasn't anything long. But I'm looking forward to seeing how to help in the future. Maybe it'll make me relax a little bit. But I wanted to talk to you because I was on Instagram and I saw this little clip from the Red Table Talk, and it just kind of made me think, and it made me think about my old relationship. So I just wanted to get your input on it. Um, you know that I was with my ex for 8 years, and the last 2 years were really tough because I told you how he literally had changed and I didn't know he was. And, I also had changed and evolved throughout the relationship where he didn't really know who I was either.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get your perspective because I know you've also been in long-term relationships. Have you experienced any of that? How do you feel about that? And how'd you handle it?
So, but what was happening with on Red Table Talk to make you think about it?
So the clip was a clip of Jada talking about how she, during the quarantine right now, she realized that she don't know Will at all. So, that just made me think about my ex because that's how I told you that's exactly how I had felt by the end, that I didn't know him. It's like he had become somebody that I just like never thought he would be throughout that whole time we had been together.
A part of me feels like, okay, Jada, you don't know Will at all? Or are you just stunned at just how much you realize you don't know about him? And it seems like a lot, but for somebody to be married to another person for 20 something odd years, I don't know. But to me, that just tells me over time, maybe no matter how long, maybe there's a breakdown in communication.
Yeah. And they've been together for that long. And I'm like, me and my ex were together for 8 years. And I experienced the same type of feeling that she's experiencing. But I see your point with saying that is she just maybe receiving a lot of information at one time and it's just kind of overwhelming.
It feels like a lot. But when it comes to, let's say, your relationship, when you look back over the 8 years and you realize after the fact, man, I really didn't know him. What were the things that made you feel like you didn't know him? Or were you like basing your ideas of him off of old information that was previously true about him, and then over the years he evolved and changed, and you just never went back to apply those new changes to him?
I think it was both, honestly. When you've been with somebody for that long, the first 5 years, they're still that person that you met. You just you become so comfortable with that any changes is just kind of surprising because you still see that person that you fell for initially. I also think that he did change because we had always talked about family, how family is important, marriage being important. And by the time we were at year 6, he was telling me that he didn't know how he felt about marrying me anymore. And he didn't know how he felt about having kids. And that was like a slap in the face. And to me, I was shocked. I was so surprised. I wasn't expecting that at all.
I can't even imagine. That's a huge shock. I wonder though, because it sounds like if that is like news to you, then that absolutely was a communication breakdown. Whether he was aware of the changes that he was making mentally and emotionally, did he ever communicate those things to you? Like, hey, I'm not feeling the same.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it taught me a lesson because now I try to communicate as much as possible because it wasn't just him. I'm not going to put it all on him.
Right.
It was me too, except that was one of the things that kind of made me realize that we were both going into two different directions. Up to
Mm-hmm.
that point, honestly, I didn't think it was okay for me to change my mind about something as extreme, a topic that was so important that we had already had discussed for years. I just didn't think it was okay for me to change my mind about things like that. And that is something that he honestly taught me. He taught me that, if I meet someone and at the maybe 2 years down the line, I want kids, and then maybe we're like him. I hope not, and we get we're together for 8 years, and then I decide that maybe that's not something that I want because my goals have changed. Um, I've realized that that's okay, but I realized that that is not okay if you're with someone if you don't communicate that along the way and you just
Yeah.
shock them with it
Yep.
out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. So I was looking at something the other day because, everybody's a relationship expert. Everybody's a relationship guru. And so
Obviously, you didn't know.
I mean, so they would, something would say or did say that the number one reason why people split up is communication or the lack thereof.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's true. That goes not just with romantic relationships, but that goes with any relationship. You're not going to know what's going on truthfully if you're not communicating. And then the other part of communicating is the understanding, because we can be communicating all day long, but if we haven't taken conversations and
Exactly.
we're miscommunicating and I'm not understanding what you're saying and you're not understanding what I'm saying, and we're not trying to understand each other, then the communication is for nothing.
Let me ask you a question though.
Mm-hmm.
If you're with someone who doesn't communicate changes within themselves, maybe hobbies, goals, even something as simple as a diet, do you think that that other person have maybe sort of a individualistic sense of themselves, like this is me and this is about me, so I'm making this decision about me and I don't need to communicate these changes with this other person? Do you think that can be an issue as well?
I think that is an issue in a lot of relationships, that when after a certain period of time, or if they ever learn it, people operate individually when they should be operating as a team or in a partnership.
Right.
You never switch your mind over. You chose to be in this relationship, but you never adapted to what this relationship calls for, which is partnership and teamwork. If everything is just me, how effective is my partnership going to be?
Yeah.
So if it's just all about me, what growing are we doing together? What is the purpose of this relationship?
Yeah, so I feel like a person who feels like that and views a relationship like that is not really in the relationship to be in a partnership with someone. And I was reading an article in Psychology Today and that was talking about how your personality and your character does not change within a relationship. The only time that you'll have changes like that is if you have some type of mental health issue or mental breakdown. The kind of things that changes for you are your goals and your dreams, and even something like a career goal or even like your hobbies. That being said, when I was with my ex, when I started to see those changes in him, I'm wondering, what did I fall for him initially because of I guess intrinsic values, or did I just, or was it just his
Do you feel like
and his
do you feel
personality
like
I
he
fell
was
for?
being his true self?
And that's a great question, because sometimes people show you what they want at the beginning of a relationship because they know that's what you want to see. And then, once y'all are in the thick of it, they're not as don't take into account all those things that they did for you at the beginning. I don't know if that's a form of manipulation or if
I
that
don't know.
person, if their intentions were actually to come off as some person that they knew that they couldn't be
Hmm.
once they
So
were in a
maybe
relationship
not a
with you.
form of not a form of manipulation, but possibly a realization that
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want this anymore and I don't want that anymore. And now my values have shifted and I actually want these things instead of those things.
So when the values switch,
I think that's a part of growth. I think
that's
you
a
can
part
still
of growth.
attribute that to
Yeah. I
growth.
feel like that's okay. Having kids and getting married, is that part of that has to be part of your values and your goals. So I can see how something like that would change throughout a relationship. I mean, me now, 31-year-old Jeanne could see that, you know. 23, 24-year-old me, of course I couldn't see that any type of change was a sort of like a shock
Hmm.
at that point in my life. When you were younger, did you ever feel like that? Did you have any experiences like that?
About like my values changing.
Not even that you were with someone. Yeah, I guess so. You were with someone and your values changed or their values changed. And like, how did you handle that? And how did they handle that? Did you realize in that moment that it was just a part of growth? Or were you like me where it was just it's something that just broke us up?
Mm. I think I think a lot of my growth and changes led to breakups. And it
Yeah.
just is. It's like, I have always just felt like I'm not gonna stay somewhere where I feel like this person or this situation doesn't serve me anymore. Like if it doesn't serve me, I'm good for bouncing. Like I'm out of there. And I mean, that's a value of mine. If this is not working for me and I've tried and I've, covered all my bases and I've turned every corner to see what could work and it's just not working, gotta go. But when it comes to values, I do a lot of self assessment and I do a lot of reflection on what is it that you want? Are you quote unquote happy? Um, are you growing? Are you moving towards these goals? You have an overall sense of self still intact. Are you satisfied? If
Right.
any of these things are jeopardized, that calls for another conversation, that calls for some more reflection. And I need to start like pinpointing what's really going down, what's going on, because that means some things are going to have to change because my values are in jeopardy at this point.
Were you as great a communicator when you were younger as you are now?
Absolutely not.
No. When how old do you think you were when your communication style started to shift a little bit?
Well, actually, I feel like, that first relationship, the first time you like fall in love and
Mhm.
you just everything has to be right and you give 1,000%. I think in that very
Girl,
first relationship,
tell
I
me.
I felt like I was a really good communicator, but I also had a really good boyfriend at the time.
Right.
But over the years, like stuff happens, you fall in and out of love, you get with this person, you leave this person, you get with that person, and situations, circumstances, issues, drama, all of that stuff changes you, it shapes you, it molds you. And I think at one point, I found myself taking on the traits of an old partner where
Wow, good.
I was picking up the bad traits. So this person was not a good communicator.
Mm.
This person was like the worst. And
Mhm.
this person was just not for me because overall I am a good communicator in general, but I knew something wasn't right when I found myself being like this person.
Did he expect you to agree? with those changes that happen over time? Like to
I don't think
conform,
he cared.
to them?
I don't think he cared. I just think
Or just not to
we ended
question
up
him at
being,
all?
yeah, it was like if I gave any pushback, it was gonna be a problem, or we not vibing, we not feeling each other right now. So I stay over here, you stay over there, and we don't talk and we don't speak. And though that was one of the things that was like used against me. Like if I'm not feeling you, I'm not speaking to you. So there was no conflict resolution. And it's
Right.
like, this person is operating individually. You're not trying to be my teammate. You're not trying to be my partner. You ain't trying to be, a good boyfriend or whatever. And ultimately, it got to a point where it was like, you are hurting me more than you're helping me. I'm not growing at all. I feel really bad in this relationship. Something's got to give. But the funny thing is, when a person picks up your traits and they become just like you don't like that.
Oh,
Because now you're in a
yeah.
dose of your own medicine. And it's like, oh, you want to be stubborn and bullheaded and manipulative? Well, if I pick up those traits and I give you the same thing back, now we're really going to be butting heads. And the train just derails from there.
Great point. So the same thing happened to me when I started seeing how he was doing his own thing and were by himself. It just kind of hit me like, why are you just stuck in the same position that you were? Why are you not growing? Like, you're so worried about what he's doing and you're so concerned about his changes. You're not even making any changes of your own. So when I started making those changes, girl, the pushback was just,
Nobody wants you to be doing better than them.
my God.
You ain't know that?
I was so confused. I'm like, what in the hell? You know, I always tell you, girl, it's like I was in a Twilight Zone. Girl, it was like I was in the Twilight Zone. I'm like, this can't be real life that I do what you do, and now it's a problem. That's real life. That's the 21st century. All the lessons I learned from that I was able to carry on into the relationship I had after that, just came in handy. Like I said to you earlier, it really taught me that I could change my mind. And it also taught me that my partner can change their mind as well. It just, as long as we communicate that to each other. And
if you don't, breakdown is inevitable. Like, you won't be able to avoid it.
Exactly. And, I can say that my relationship is thriving way more than my last one was. Do you think when you picked up those bad traits, it only put a wrench in y'all relationship and y'all getting to know each other and the changes y'all had made since the beginning of y'all relationship? You don't think that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It threw a monkey wrench in there. And so it went from let's grow together, let's get to know each other, let's have a good time, to nothing but negativity and toxicity. And we don't actually enjoy being around each other.
Yeah.
But nobody wanted to pull the trigger on the breakup.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that crazy how that plays out? You can sit there and not stand each other, but no one is like, okay, we need to just call it quits. You're not working for me. I'm not working for you. For us to both be our best selves, we just need to end this. But instead, it's like all that toxic behavior, y'all just bounce off of each other and y'all just make each other worse and worse.
It's a negative cycle. And so when that's going on and you're just going back and forth and back and forth, think about all of the other negative things you're picking up.
Yeah.
Like, people talk about being jaded, and then you're jaded, and then all men are dogs, and then all men can't communicate. And then it's just all of these blanket statements like relationships are whack, and there are no good men out there, and everybody's
niggas don't listen.
Trash. Nobody listens. They simple-minded. They this, that, or whatever.
Niggas ain't shit.
And when your relationship breaks down, you really feel that.
That's true.
And now you're putting that on every person. And it's like that. they are trash, but not everybody's trash. It's one of those things where you have to do what you're supposed to do. You know you're supposed to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
You know pride and ego stand in the way of that. Being stubborn stands in the way of that. Are you going to be, quote unquote, the bigger person and get it done for the sake of your relationship? Or are you going to suffer the consequences of not doing what you know you're supposed to be doing? And the crazy part about communication is that miscommunication is still going to happen, but you have to be diligent. You got to be really diligent about what you're saying, how you're saying it. And unfortunately, no matter how clear you can say a thing, somebody's still going to not hear you correctly.
Yeah, I was
and
just
they're
about
gonna
to say,
misinterpret.
like, you're saying all this, but bitch, it is hard when
It's hard
in the
because
moment.
it's hard in the moment, and you can say something really clear and straightforward, and they will just
Take it a
not
totally
get
different
it.
way.
They won't. Yeah, they'll take it a totally different
Absolutely.
way, and you have to be on top of your stuff. Like, you got to be diligent about making sure you were heard. And I hate repeating myself, but I find myself repeating myself a lot because I
Reiterating
want to make
different
sure,
ways.
yeah, I want to make sure you heard what I said, you heard how I said it, you know what I meant. Because when you just leave stuff up in the air, well, you had said this,
right?
Yeah,
I think
but
that's
I
good
meant it this
though.
way.
I think that's good because if you don't do that, it'll just lead to mistakes and assumptions that happen in your past. And just like when you were talking about how y'all started resenting each other, like resentment just don't happen out of nowhere. I feel like resentment is like you start resenting somebody or vice versa when one of y'all or both of y'all start making the conscious decision not to know each other, not to communicate, and not to understand each other. And I feel like that's where the not knowing each other anymore starts. With Jada and Will, I didn't watch the whole thing, so I'm not sure when she dove deeper into it, how she explained it. But I know that there's a lot of people who've been together for just as long and they feel how Jada feels. And it's not.
It makes me wonder, was she expecting Will to be the same from 20 years ago?
You know
because
what?
I don't expect anybody to
That's
stay
why I
the
don't want to
same.
comment on it like that's what I took from it, because I didn't watch the whole thing. So I don't just want to be like, oh, this is what she expected from Will. And I don't just want to put it on Jada because maybe she explained something in that episode that she really didn't know about Will. That's something of importance when you're in a relationship with somebody else that made her feel that way. So I don't want to just say that. But one thing I do realize is getting to know somebody and knowing your partner or not knowing your partner doesn't just happen one day. There comes a time when, you've been with somebody for a long time that you decide that you're not interested in the things that they do.
I'm triggered.
Like, bitch. Like, this literally happened to me. Like,
So that just tells me, like, so the lack of interest, the lack of communication, all of that stuff, like you said, resentment does not happen overnight. That led y'all straight into this complex emotion that is like a mixture of disappointment, fear, and anger. And like low-key disgust of your partner.
Right, because after that, I felt like I couldn't talk to him about anything. So it just went to us just not talking at all. And then not that long after that is when he told me that he didn't know how he felt about marriage anymore and having kids. So it's a domino effect. It really is.
Yeah.
You just let things fall to the wayside slowly, and then y'all get to this point where it's like we can't come back from this. And then I don't think, and I don't know if that's how Jada feel when it comes to Will, but I do remember on one of the first episodes of Red Table Talk, she talked about how Will and her both had like personal activities that they both like to do, and how she will only go and do this. Like Will loves to be outdoors, and he knows now by this point that she doesn't like to do that kind of stuff. So they have a deal where she will participate in that like once a year or twice a year, and then he'll do something that he don't like to do with her. And I wonder if that has something to do with why she feels like she doesn't know him, because she has shown that she's not interested in the same thing. So why would I talk to you about something that you show me you're not interested in? And vice versa.
Ooh, yeah, that's true. It's interesting though, because they came up with this deal. So they knew what was going on, and they created this deal around their likes or their interests or whatever. And they, I guess, stuck to the deal. I'll only do this at this time. You do this at that time. We do this together at a certain time. But after 20 years, I don't know. I think it's more to it than scheduled activities.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I know it's more to it than scheduled activities. It's just communication. Also, think about Will and Jada, who are high profile celebrities who travel
all the time.
So much. Will is in these blockbuster movies. He's all over the world. Jada's like doing her thing, raising kids, and they share like these homes all over the world. And from the outside looking in, they, regardless of all their swingers rumors, they seem to be a pretty dope power couple. Like people love Will and Jada, but that's from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
On the inside, ever since Red Table Talk started, Jada is putting it on blast that they are like, they're like every other couple, and they deal with the things that every relationship has going on.
And I appreciate that she does that, because it shows me that, everybody's not perfect. And plus, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
Oh, yeah.
There's always going to be something that's lacking. And with Will and Jada, we know the pressures of marriage and kids aren't just the only two that they've been worrying about. It's also their personal careers, and then them two together. So it's like the responsibility of being a celebrity that they have to worry about, the responsibility of being parents, the responsibility of being a good partner. And shoot, I'm not a celebrity, so I've never had to worry about me being separated. And I'm pretty sure that's hard to juggle. But, that could translate into a normal person's life with work. So it's like work, family, work and family. How do you balance it? And it just seems like their case is more extreme because of their status. Every time we talk on the phone, you be dropping these gems for me, girl. I don't know if it's the mental health hospital or the teaching these high school students that you have to talk to all the time. But I'm going to have to talk to you later, because I need to watch this last episode of Grey's Anatomy that I've been holding off on. Apparently, Owen is supposed to find out that I think her name is Charlie is cheating on him with the heart specialist. So, I'll let you know what happened, but I'm going to talk to you later, girl.
All right, then.
All right, bye.
All right, thanks for listening to another Not So Private conversation between me and my best friend. Now, I want to take the time to shout out a couple friends who are dropping new content, new podcasts. The first one is What's Up with the Culture? It's by my cousin, Rollin. This podcast will have you inspired and motivated, as well as happy and laughing at the same time. Rollins podcast is all about communication, conversation, telling good stories, connecting with people, and just bringing you feel good vibes as he talks about what's up with the culture. All right, the next podcast I actually want to spotlight and shout out is the Sports Podium podcast with James Lawhorn, Lamar Lovelace, and Michael Mills. And I always get a kick out of sports talk because guys get so serious with these sports. This podcast, it drops every Monday and it talks about football, basketball, baseball, hockey, doesn't matter the arena. They have an opinion from a fan's point of view with no media agendas or filters. And the last podcast we want to shout out is the Hookup Podcast by CJ, Jax, E. White, and Jay Green. They are 4 friends who sit down to discuss music, pop culture, sports, and they spotlight independent artists from all over the country. They all give their unique perspectives on the world through their eyes.
Thank y'all again for listening to us this week. Guys, make sure y'all subscribe and leave a review for us at anchor.fm/notsoprivatepod. And also check us out on Apple Podcasts and Google Play and all other listening platforms. Also, you can find us on Instagram at Jeanne V. Williams. That's JeAnne V. Williams. And at Perfectly Mia. That's Perfectly MIA. And if y'all enjoyed today's topic and have some questions or any topic suggestions, just shoot us an email at notsoprivatepod@gmail.com. We'll be back next Thursday. So all y'all LDBs, come back and listen in on another Not So Private conversation.